By the late 1980s, Black Sabbath was a mess. The band saw their original lineup dissolve in the late 1970s, and even with a breath of fresh air with the arrival of vocalist Ronnie James Dio and the record of two classic albums, Heaven and Hell and Mob Rules, Dio left soon after Mob Rules, and Tony Iommi saw Glenn Hughes and Ian Gillan change duties as a frontman, while Geezer and Bill left the band, leaving him as the only founding member. The formation and reshape of what would be the third phase of Black Sabbath is not different than the whole chaotic story of the band. And we are going to dive into the story at the first album of this new era. An album born from turmoil, reshaped by controversy, and remembered today as the beginning of the often overlooked Tony Martin era. Welcome to the series The Genius Of, and let's talk about the album, The Eternal Idol.
Who's this God? Tell me there's no God above.
By the mid-1980s, Black Sabbath were a band in survival mode. Ozzy Osbourne was long gone, Ron James Dio had to exit, and Tony Iommi, the band's founder and only original member, was carrying the Black Sabbath name on his shoulders. Following 1986 Seven Start, an album that was originally intended to be as a Tony Iommi solo album but was denied by the label's pressure to put the Black Sabbath name on it, the band entered yet another transitional phase.
When the album was being mixed, Don Arden came down and said, we have a change of mind. We're going to call it the Black Sabbath featuring Tony Iommi. Tony was very upset about it. Well, I wasn't very happy about it because I am not a Black Sabbath singer, as you know. Yeah. And I have great respect for all my friends in Sabbath.
Glenn Hughes had departed and the band cycled through musicians and auditions, while Iommi, still the center figure of the band, was determined to keep Sabbath alive, regardless of the instability around him. The original lineup of what would become the Eternal Idol featured the unknown Ray Gillen on vocals, Eric Singer that recorded the album Seven Star on the drums, Bob Daisley that replaced Dave Spitz during the record session on bass, and Jeff Nichols that have been with the band since Heaven and Hell, handling keyboards. Recording began in early October of 1986, and like usually happens with Black Sabbath, problems quickly followed. So check this out. The album initially started with producer Jeff Glisman, but after a series of internal issues, Glisman was soon replaced by Vic Coppersmith-Heaven, and bassist Dave Spitz left the band, with Bob Daisley brought in to record Spitz tracks. However, before the completion of the album, Daisley left the band alongside drummer Eric Singer. Following production issues with Coppersmith, the band switched producers once more to Chris Tsangarides, I think that's how you pronounce, while vocalist Ray Gillen left the band. Everything even before the album got released. I told you, Black Sabbath in the 80s was no joke. What a mess. Ray Gillen's involvement remains one of the band's most infamous chapters. Born in 1959 in New York but raised in Cliffside Park, New Jersey, he started singing in a New Jersey club circuit with various bands, including the bands Quest, the punk rock influenced F66, Savage, and most notably Vendetta. And at the time, he was playing in the drummers Bobby Rondinelli's band, Rondinelli. Gillan recorded all original lead vocals for the album, and early promotional materials even credit him as the band's new frontman. However, due to what we can call a mix of financial burden, writing difficulty, even some people say that Bob Daisley was also recruited for writing purpose, as Gillan turned out not to be much of a composer, mismanagement, miscommunication that always plagued the band, Gillan quit before the album was even released. His short career was followed by a project with guitarist John Sykes called Blue Murder that he only ended up singing in 2 demos, and his big project was joining a band called Badlands with guitarist J.K. Lee in 1988, and he recorded 2 albums with the band. He unfortunately died of AIDS-related disease in 1993, and he was only 34 years old.
Most of the lyrics, Bob came in and did a few, he presented others, but we went back mainly to doing what we'd already done because Ray was a vowel singer, and a lot of the lyrics that Bob wrote just didn't suit how we wanted, and we didn't want to change the melodies. We've been through enough on that particular scenario. And then it just got really weird because when Ray had finished everything and we got the album sounding whatever, he bugged off to go to Blue Murder. Again, from the understanding I got from Cozy, that people thought, him and John Sykes thought Ray could write really good melodies and lyrics on his own, which wasn't the case. I'd heard the album or tracks that Ray had probably played them, but Ray didn't come up with all the melodies and the lyrics. Most of them were mine. You know, obviously Ray put different things in, but it was hard work because, again, Ray was a young buck who wanted to go out every night and party, you know. I mean, and it's hard, he was like 25 years old, you know, you're stuck in London, and I mean, like Montserrat, you couldn't do a lot, but we were only there actually for about 5 weeks, and then we went to our studios. And it was just there was a whole load of things going on that's just like created havoc.
Soon after the departure of Gillan, the band auditioned several vocalists before deciding on the unknown Tony Martin to re-record Gillan's vocals, and also enlist Beth Baven to record drums overdubs. And despite all the changes on the lineup, all the musicians received writing credits on the album. So why Tony Martin? In autumn of 1987, Tony Martin received a phone call from his manager to take a drive around Birmingham. At the time, Martin was the frontman with a local band called The Alliance. They had recorded a session for BBC Radio's The Friday Rock Show, and thanks to a development deal with Warner Brothers, recorded an impressive demo tape that was generating a little to no attention. That drive led him to a meeting with Tony Iommi himself, and the short story is that he was asked to sing The Shining, which became the opening song of the Eternal Idol album, and he got told he got the job on the spot, with the first task of finishing the album within 7 days. And just like that, Tony Martin became a member of one of the most important heavy metal bands of all time.
First of all, how did you get on their radar? What was it that they saw and managed to contact you and think you're going to be the next man?
Well, I had an in. My manager, Albert Chapman, he went to school with Ozzy and Tony. They grew up together, and they worked together, and eventually Albert became a tour manager for them in the early days. Albert had got us under his wing at the time. Right at that time was a band called The Alliance, and we'd got a publishing deal with Warner Brothers, but we were in the process of looking for a record deal. It fell apart. Okay. And so, like, what happens now? And so Albert started mooching him out, and he sort of gave Tony a ring and spoke to their manager at the time, and he said, my lad's like available. And he went, what? You know, who's that? He says, I'm, you know, great singer, you know, if you're interested, let me know and I'll get him up there. Well, 1986 sort of happened with Tony doing the Seventh Star album with Glenn Hughes, and they had some problems with Glenn. I don't know what it was, but Glenn went missing for some reason. I don't know where he went, but they put me on standby and said we might have a gig for you, and I was like, fuck off, I can't sing like Glenn Hughes. Nobody can sing like Glenn Hughes. Only Glenn Hughes can sing like Glenn Hughes. I was really, really scared. So I said, okay, well, just, you know, learn a few of the songs and stuff like that. And they sent me the tape of the album before it was called Black Sabbath. In fact, it was, and if you remember, if you know the history, it was Tony Iommi's solo album in the beginning, and they insisted it be called Black Sabbath. So they sent me this tape and said Tommy to learn some songs, which I couldn't even get close to Glenn's voice, to be honest. After that, then they got Ray Gillen, and then he left to join Blue Murder with John Sykes. So they called me again and said, you better come like for a demo, like an interview, or have an audition, you know. Then I started to worry again because I wasn't sure what. I mean, I've come from nowhere, like you said. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. So anyway, they wouldn't give me any songs. They said, come to the studio in London, we'll run you through something and like see how you get on. But I went down for the session anyway and did The Shining. That was it. They gave me one song and said, bugger off. And then 2 days later, they called me back and says, right, you got the job. You've got a week to finish the album. And I went, what the fuck is going on?
At that time, Tony brought exactly what Sabbath needed: reliability, range, and powerful melodic sensibility. And he recorded every vocal track of the album, often singing over arrangements originally tailored by Gillan. And the last-minute change gave the Eternal Idol a unique identity. Martin's voice was clean, soaring, and dramatic, which it was a voice that was going more towards Ian Gillan and Glenn Hughes at the time, very different from Ozzy and Dio. But this whole approach pushed the band towards a more epic, melodic heavy metal sound, and also marked the beginning of what would become the longest lasting non-Aussie Sabbath era, even if it rarely receives the recognition it deserves. Artistically speaking, Eternal Idol represented a step up from the unbalanced predecessor Seventh Star. Musically, the Eternal Idol is steeped into the 80s heavy metal aesthetics, but it never fully abandons Sabbath's darkness. Lyrically, the album explores religion, corruption, false prophets, inner conflicts, and the abuse of power. Themes that honestly align perfectly with the album's title. Tony Iommi's guitar work balanced heavy riffing with melodic phrasing, while Jeff Nichols' keyboards add atmosphere without overpowering the core metal foundation. And the production, while polished by 80s standards, you can definitely see that it's an album from the 80s, even if it's a Black Sabbath album. It still retains a sense of weight and personality. The cover art of the album is based on a statue created by the sculptor August Rodin in 1889, and you can see both sculptures side to side right now to take your own conclusions. Some of the highlights of the album goes to the opener, The Shining, that immediately introduced Tony Martin's vocal power. It blends a traditional Sabbath heaviness with a more melodic, almost heroic delivery. It has a massive choruses, and the lyrics hint at the album's central theme of false enlightenment and manipulation. Ancient Warrior is more dark, brooding, and theatrical. It's Iommi doing more of a classic approach to his riffing. It's slower and deliberately, and Tony vocals gives the song almost like a mystical edge. Hard Life to Love, it's one of the album's most underrated tracks. There's an intro riff which is fantastic, plus Eric's drumming pattern at the start is incredible. He's really showing here how good of a drummer he is. It's like a mid-tempo rock and roll anthem with a bit of emotional depth too. Glory Ride is energetic and uplifting, and it leans closer to more traditional heavy metal than Doom, with the catchy choruses and leaning more with the epic and triumphant songwriting. Born to Lose is a more darker and introspective piece. Nightmare has a creeping keyboards, more the hunting melodies, and it's one of the most Sabbath tracks of the album. We have an instrumental interlude with Skylar Pimpernel that has a more melodic approach by Tony. It's a really beautiful piece. Lost Forever has one of my favorite riffs of all time, not only Sabbath's, of all time, and it goes more into a darkness approach on the lyrics, and also one of the heaviest tracks of the album.
All your life you've been slipping and sliding, trying to find a way. The sun won't shine, but now it's your time to pay.
And the last song, Eternal Idol, it's the song that reminds me 70s Sabbath the closest. It has extra layers, it's dense lyrically. I think it encapsulates the whole theme of the album with blind devotion and corrupt authority. It was definitely not the most successful era for Black Sabbath. While Ozzy took off from his solo career, and Dio as well, Iommi and his gang were struggling to get Sabbath back to the front house. The Eternal Idol tour was one of the Sabbath's shortest, with a total of only 20 dates, only in Greece, South Africa, Germany, and Italy. And for that tour, neither Eric Singer and Beef Baven played live. It was Terry Chimes that played the drums, and neither Bob Daisley and Dave Spitzer played live, with Joe Burt filling in for the tour as well.
Tony, let me begin by clarifying exactly who is in Black Sabbath at the moment, because the last time we heard from the band was the Seventh Star album. There seemed to be... Well, to be honest with you, I got completely confused. I didn't know who was in the band in the end. Who's in the band?
You got confused?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's Tony, of course, Tony Martin on vocals. Here he is, here, this one here. Terry Chimes on drums, who you might know from The Clash and
Cherry Bombs and people like that, yes.
Which is unusual for us, but it really does fit in. It fits in great.
Who have you got on the bass?
On bass, we've got Joe Burt, who's just recently come with us. And Jeff Nichols on keyboards.
Right, Jeff's been with the band a long time though, hasn't he?
Yeah, we can't get rid of him. We've been trying for ages, isn't it?
If all those examples were not enough to show how big of a mess Black Sabbath was around that time, there's a music video for The Shining with Terry Chimes on drums, but there's a total unknown person playing bass. This person on bass in the video is not on any album or tour. He was just there for filming that day only, having literally been plucked off the street from the shot. The band gave him a friendly name of Steve, but we have no idea who that person is. Upon release, the Eternal Idol received mixed reactions. Critics weren't sure what to make of yet another new vocalist, and fans were divided. But with time, not just the album, but the whole Tony Martin era has gained cult following, especially among listeners who appreciate that era more for the reinvention and not for the replacement. Tony Martin recorded 4 more studio albums with Black Sabbath. He left Black Sabbath initially in 1991, he turned in 1993, and finally departed in 1996. After leaving Black Sabbath, he worked on a variety of projects, most notorious including the underrated Italian hard rock band Aldo Giantini, the project The Cage with Italian guitarist and record producer Dario Molo, and his 3 solo albums.
Just something that I forgot to edit while editing this video was that in 2024, Black Sabbath released a box set called Anno Domini with 4 out of 5 albums on the era from the Tony Martin era, with Hellish Cross, Tear, Cross Purposes, and Forbidden. And while the Eternal Idol was not included, they released this version over here of the Eternal Idol that you saw on the background of the video on red vinyl here. So yeah, it's good to see that Tony Martin era getting some love after all these years with Black Sabbath fans and also with the record labels. So
The Eternal Idol stands today as a testament of Black Sabbath's resilience, album created under extreme pressure, but still has one of the best songs, riffs, and moments of the band's whole career. It's a testament of Iommi's creativity, even in the most chaotic and darker time for him, but also a testament of how good the musicians surrounding Tony at the time were. Both Tonys, I guess. The Eternal Idol was reshaped by internal conflicts, and it was ultimately saved by an unknown vocalist, who will go on to define an entire chapter of the band's history.
also, I forgot one more thing. In 2010, Black Sabbath released a deluxe edition of the Eternal Idol with 2 CDs, and the second CD has the original recordings with Ray Gillen, and it's interesting to listen to both recordings. It's on the internet, it's really easy to find, so it's worth checking out.
Tony, what's it like actually filling the shoes of people like, obviously, Ozzy Osbourne, Ronnie Dio, Ian Gillan? I mean, do you feel that pressure on you?
Not really. I mean, I'm confident in what I'm doing. I'm fortunate enough to have the sort of voice that can cope with the range of those singers, so I'm able to put that across as it should be heard. But at the same time, I'm working on me. So right. I'm getting myself across as well at the same time.
Right. Thank you so much for watching this video. That goes from a fan to another fan. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, comment. I appreciate everyone's support. And let me know in the comments, what's your favorite album of the Tony Martin era of Black Sabbath? If it's not the Eternal Idol, let me know which one it is and why. I would love to hear what you have to say. Take care, and I'll see you soon.